Please help. When it came out in 1986, John Carpenter's Big Trouble in Little China was thought to be a terrible failure. The movie only made $11 million, but it cost $25 million to make. Hollywood quickly forgot about it, and Carpenter stopped working on big projects because of his sadness. But what no one saw coming was the movie, which was once thought to be a failure, slowly come back to life. And became one of the 1980s most loved books. Behind the crazy action and funny scenes of the movie are just as amazing stories. Lo Pan, played by James Hong, once thought he might die while standing on a narrow, 3-meter-high elevator that didn't have a safety harness. The movie's lead actress, Kim Cattrall, hurt her eye by wearing painful, stiff green contact lenses. Only to get the look they wanted visually. Even John Carpenter had to add an opening scene that made the main character, Jack Burton, look like a hero because the company made him. Something Carpenter strongly disagreed with. Here are 20 facts about Big Trouble in Little China that will shock, amaze, and sometimes even shock you. A movie that looked like it was doomed to fail but ended up becoming a timeless favorite in both film and pop culture. 20. As of the mid-1980s, Kurt Russell was no longer Hollywood's golden boy. He was known as the hero afraid of failure. The movies he was in, like The Thing, Used Cars, and Swing Shift, did not do well at the box office. Every time he let go, it hurt, and every failure made him more afraid of becoming a burden, which was something that not many stars were willing to accept. John Carpenter called and told me he had a part for me. It's Jack Burton, a truck driver who talks too much and is a little dumb but nice. Russell was unsure. John, what if it fails again? And then there was a long pause. Then Carpenter started laughing out loud. Kurt, I don't care about how much money the movie makes. I only want to make a movie with you. It wasn't a movie offer. It was a blessing. The two friends who made Thing a movie that wasn't well received at the time but was later praised as a classic, were now taking a chance on a new project together called Big Trouble in Little China. Russell later said in the DVD audio, "I was scared," with a voice rough from emotion. "I thought John was going down with me, but he laughed and said, 'Who cares? Let's have fun.' So they made the movie. Not for money or fame, but just for the fun of being two losers Hollywood turned down. And that happiness led to one of the most beloved comedies of the 1980s. 19. There is no such thing as a real hero. Everyone thought Jack Burton was the hero. He had the truck, the strength, the gun, and the confidence of an American who was about to save the world. But the movie's director, John Carpenter, had other plans. A sarcastic turn that took direct aim at the white hero stereotype that had ruled Hollywood for decades. Carpenter said in an interview, "In Big Trouble in Little China, Jack can't keep things straight. He misses shots, gets tangled up, and even passes out before the final battle. In the meantime, Wang Chi, his cool and skilled Asian friend, saves the group fighting monsters and beats the sorcerer Lo Pan." This wasn't just a joke, it was a smart attack on Hollywood in the 1980s. A time when white characters were always shown as heroes and black characters were always shown in the background. Carpenter changed the story. He left the real hero out of the picture and made the white guy who was too sure of himself into a funny white guy joke about himself. After 30 years, people finally got it. There was more to the story than just Jack Burton. He reminded me of a time in films when guys were loud and careless and thought they were saving the world when they were really just going along for the ride. 18. The Three Storms. How Raiden and Shang Tsung Wind got their start. Fire. Thunder. In Big Trouble in Little China, three warriors in robes and wide-brimmed hats come down during a storm. They are silent and move like old gods. Not many people would have thought that these characters would become the basis for another famous video game, Mortal Kombat. When Mortal Kombat came out in 1992, the people who made it said they got an idea from John Carpenter. They said that Raiden, the Thunder God, is an exact copy of Storm Lightning from Big Trouble in Little China. Even the lightning around his body, his straw hat, and the way he acted were all straight out of Carpenter's Chinatown. Shang Tsung, the immortal magician who steals souls in the game, was based on David Lo Pan, who wore a black robe and had glowing eyes, long hair, and a cursed grin. But there's another source of motivation that not many people know about. Carpenter once said that stories from China and a Japanese movie called Lone Wolf and Cub gave him the idea for the Three Storms. In it, supernatural swordsmen fought with a level of passion that was like that of a god. These lightning bolts keep going off as proof that Big Trouble in Little China is more than just a movie, from Tokyo to San Francisco and from the big screen to arcade games. It's a societal thread that runs through 30 years. 17. The opposite of the airport scene. A safety-focused trick that looks good. In the beginning of the movie, the kidnapper's car speeds out of the airport parking lot, and Jack and Wang have to duck to avoid getting hit. It looks exciting, dangerous, and a lot like real life. You can see that everything in that scene is going backwards, though. John Carpenter shot the scene backwards. People ran backwards, the car went backwards, and then the video was played back faster. It wasn't to make you feel weird, but to keep you safe. A stunt double wasn't used because the car was too close to the players. When the scene was played backwards, it seemed strangely natural and seamless, but it also had an unsettling vibe. It perfectly summed up the mood of the whole movie. Known, but always just a little off. 16. Kim Cattrall, the unwarned prisoner. Gracie Law is the only prisoner who was tied down and gagged in the jail scene. People thought it was part of the plan, but Kim Cattrall wasn't told about it ahead of time. There was a scene in the original plot where she yelled at the guards, which made them angry enough to tie her up. However, that scene was cut from the final film. She was shocked to find real ropes waiting for her when she got to the set. John Carpenter asked, "Are you okay? Is this making you feel bad?" Kim just laughed. "Things have been worse for me than this." She was shot at for hours, and the only time the gag was taken off was to drink water. The crew respected her for how skilled she was. During the scene, Gracie's eyes flash with real anger, a feeling that couldn't have been planned. That's when Kim Cattrall changed surprise into a realistic movie scene. 15. James Hong was scared he was going to die on set. James Hong, an actor who has been working for more than 50 years and has played hundreds of parts, had a scary moment during a scene in Big Trouble in Little China that should have been easy. Hong had to stand on a tight, 3-meter-high escalator while playing the bad guy Lo Pan. As they walked, their long, flowing robes moving with them. There was a big empty space below him that would make anyone sweat. Hong said, "When the escalator started moving, I thought my heart would stop. I couldn't see anything because the lights were so bright and there was smoke everywhere. And my robe kept getting caught on the elevator. I felt like if I took one wrong step, I would fall to the ground." As a perfectionist, John Carpenter, the director, wouldn't use safety belts because he wanted the scene to look as real as possible. Hong was told, "Don't worry, we'll frame the shots so you look royal." But those words didn't help much when you were standing on a tall, shaky elevator while fireworks went off around you with no safety gear on. Hong did a great job with the scene. The whole crew got loud and cheered when he finally got off. Years later, Hong humorously reflected, "Lo Pan might look immortal, but in fact, I was just a trembling old man trying not to fall. I really believed I wouldn't make it through that day." 14. John Carpenter got angry on the job. John Carpenter was known for being calm. As a director, he always kept things proper and in check on set. He did lose his temper, though, on one day of filming Big Trouble in Little China. Why? Before he could say anything, a firework set off. When Carpenter, who was normally calm, suddenly yelled, "Who's to blame?" His words could be heard all over the set. The person in charge of special effects hung his head and didn't say anything. Carpenter had worked with Kurt Russell many times, and Russell said, "That was one of the few times I saw John lose it. He's usually so calm, but that fireworks show really riled him up." Carpenter quickly got himself together again, though. He stopped shooting, looked over the whole set of explosives, and demanded that everything be reset correctly. The scene went off without a hitch when filming restarted. The incident turned into a great behind-the-scenes story that the team would always remember. 13. The floating eye monster cost more than $100,000. The floating eye monster is one of the most famous pictures from Big Trouble in Little China. It was a strange creature with tentacles and dozens of eyes that seemed to be watching everything. Bringing this monster to life, on the other hand, cost over $100,000, which was a huge chunk of the movie's budget at the time. Carpenter said that making that thing was a technical headache. The monster was made by the same special effects team that worked on Ghostbusters, Boss films. That being said, the flying eye was not at all like the funny ghosts in Ghostbusters. The creature's eyes were all made to move on their own, giving the impression that it was alive and aware. In order to do this, The team had to set up dozens of separate controls that were all linked to a complicated network of wires and lines that ran across the set. One member of the effects team said that just getting the eyes to move and sync took a lot of long nights. Carpenter also said that we had to redo the whole scene if even one eye didn't work right. I sometimes thought we were giving money to something that had too many eyes. Carpenter insisted on keeping the monster in the movie no matter what. He thought that the floating eye wasn't just an odd addition, it was a symbol of the movie's strange imagination. 12. When John Carpenter didn't like the script. John Carpenter didn't like the script for Big Trouble in Little China when he first read it. In the first movie, Jack Burton played a gunslinger in a Western setting who fought old Chinese sorcerers. Carpenter was honest and said, "I thought it was a mess and nothing special. I did not want to make this movie." He changed the story from taking place in the Wild West to happening in San Francisco's Chinatown in the present day in order to give it new life. The most important thing he did was rethink Jack Burton's role. Carpenter made Jack into a clueless jerk who talked more than he did and often made things worse instead of a standard hero. Jack should have thought he was the most important thing in the world. Carpenter said that he was really just along for the ride. Carpenter felt a lot better about himself after making these changes. It was no longer just another strange Western. I wanted people to step into something new that it had become. As it turned out, the movie was truly unique and different from anything Hollywood had ever made. 11. Carpenter had to add the first scene because the company made him. John Carpenter was proud of the first cut of Big Trouble in Little China when it was all done. At the start of the movie, Jack Burton was driving his truck, the Porkchop Express, and the story started right away. But 20th Century Fox had something else in mind. They asked for an extra scene at the beginning to show that Jack Burton was a good guy. Carpenter didn't agree. He said that the story was all about how Jack wasn't really a hero. That being said, the studio insisted, and Carpenter grudgingly gave in. Because of that desire, we have the opening scene we see now. Egg Shen, the Chinese witch doctor, is being questioned, and he says that Jack Burton saved everyone. To make things even more interesting, Egg Shen shows off his magical abilities by shooting lightning from his hands. This pulls viewers right into the film's magical world. In retrospect, Carpenter said, ironically, the scene has since become one of the film's most memorable moments, setting the surreal tone of Big Trouble in Little China right from the start. 10. Dennis Dun was chosen as Wang Chi, the loyal friend and real hero of Big Trouble in Little China, but Jackie Chan turned down the part. John Carpenter was interested in Jackie Chan because he was a big star. At that time, Jackie Chan was one of the most famous martial artists in Asia. Movies like Battle Creek Brawl, 1980, and The Protector, 1985, were making Hollywood take notice of him. Carpenter thought Chan was the best person to play Wang Chi because Chan was a cool, skilled, and funny fighter. He did a lot of other things well too. He had great timing for jokes. Carpenter said that he would have made Wang Chi famous. Things didn't go as planned, though. The directors were worried that Chan's English wasn't good enough for people in the United States to enjoy. Carpenter fought back. That doesn't bother me. I only want him for the part. To Carpenter's surprise, though, Jackie Chan turned down the offer in the end. Even though Chan liked the story, he chose to focus on his booming career in Hong Kong, where he was at the height of his fame. Dennis Dun, who wasn't very well known at the time, got the part in the end. Carpenter didn't feel bad about what he did and said Dennis was great. He gave Wang Chi a cool charm that worked great with the movie. 9. While Kurt Russell was sick with a high fever, he taped. Sometimes Kurt Russell's body wasn't up to it, but he always gave it his all. When Jack Burton wakes up after the final fight, confused, tired, and barely able to stand, it is one of the most memorable scenes in Big Trouble in Little China. The public didn't know that Russell wasn't just playing. He was actually sick with a fever of almost 39 degrees Celsius when this scene was being filmed. Russell later said in the DVD introduction, "I felt like my whole body was on fire. John kept telling me, 'This is perfect,' even though I could hardly stand up straight. Don't change anything." John Carpenter, who didn't know what was wrong with Russell at the time, thought the actor's slow moves and confused face were brilliant. "I thought he had it down pat. I didn't know he was just trying not to fall down." Carpenter later said it with an embarrassed laugh. Russell pushed through the scene without complaining, even though he was totally worn out. In the end, his real-life tiredness fit exactly with Jack Burton's confused state, making the scene real and effective.
The video was left alone and didn't need much editing.
8. The movie disaster at the box office. That made John Carpenter quit acting in films. John Carpenter thought that Big Trouble in Little China would be his biggest hit when it came out in 1986. It had all the things he liked:
a one-of-a-kind plot, strange personalities, and lots of crazy, exciting moments. But the harsh truth hit them hard.
The movie only made $11 million at the box office, even though it cost between $19 and $25 million to make. Carpenter was very sad. He said it straight out: Hollywood killed this movie.
He said that 20th Century Fox didn't get the movie's big idea and messed up its marketing.
Instead of showing how creative the movie was, they made ads that were hard to understand and made people wonder what to expect. Big Trouble in Little China came out in the summer, at the same time as other big action films. People didn't want a silly truck driver like Jack Burton, though. Carpenter explained in a frustrated tone that they wanted strong heroes like Rambo. The loss of the movie was the last straw for Carpenter. He was tired of the studios getting in the way of his work, so he quit Hollywood to work on smaller, independent projects where he could keep artistic control. 7. Kim Cattrall hurt her eye while wearing contact lenses.
Playing Gracie Law wasn't just about giving Kim Cattrall funny lines and doing dangerous stunts.
For the movie's mysterious plot, she also had to wear uncomfortable green contact lenses. Even though it seemed like a small thing, the lenses were really hurting her a lot. Cattrall remembered, they were thick and hard, and it felt like sandpaper was getting in my eyes. My eyes were always bright red when I took them out, like someone had punched me. Cattrall had to wear the lenses for hours on end during one very long day of filming, which hurt her corneas. She had blurry vision and a burning feeling, but she kept going so the shoot wouldn't be held up. She joked later, "I'd close my eyes and act like I didn't feel anything." A doctor was called to check on Cattrall's health after the scene was over. The harm was only temporary, which was a relief, but Cattrall said it was one of the most uncomfortable things she had ever done at work. What the special meaning of the Chinese title means. Big Trouble in Little China is a fun title for English-speaking viewers that hints at a crazy adventure in Chinatown. But for Asian viewers, the Chinese title means something deeper and more mystical. The title, Spirits Causing Chaos in the Sacred Land, Lingjita Maoxian, sounds like the name of an old tale. Putting people up against mysterious forces. The Chinese title was great to John Carpenter. It sounds like a story from the past, about a fight between humans and supernatural beings. He said it was a great fit for the movie's mood. But he also knew that people in the West wouldn't like a term that was so long and complicated. So, Big Trouble in Little China, which is easier to understand and more powerful, was picked for the English version. Lopan once made fun of James Hong by saying, "The Chinese title makes me feel like I'm in a grand epic, while the English title makes it look like a crazy road trip." Even though they are different, both names capture what makes the movie special. It's a mix of mythical Eastern folklore and bold, offbeat Hollywood storytelling. 5. The Race Against the Golden Child. When work began on Big Trouble in Little China, John Carpenter had no idea that The Golden Child, another movie with a mysterious Asian theme, would be tough competition. In The Golden Child, Eddie Murphy played a detective who doesn't want to go on a quest to save a magical child with divine powers. Paramount Pictures put a lot of effort into promoting the movie, counting on Murphy's huge star power after the success of Beverly Hills Cop. At the same time, 20th Century Fox rushed the making of Big Trouble in Little China so that it could come out before The Golden Child. Carpenter and his crew had just 12 weeks to finish the movie. We couldn't take a breath. Carpenter could remember that everything had to be done quickly. When they both came out, The Golden Child, $79 million, did very well at the box office, while Big Trouble in Little China did not do well at all, making only $11 million. But as time went on, Carpenter's movie became a cult favorite, while The Golden Child became less well known. It was clear to Kurt Russell that it would be a huge hit. He was sure that Big Trouble in Little China would be the biggest movie of 1986 when he agreed to play Jack Burton. With a unique plot, a great cast, and John Carpenter in charge, Russell thought the movie had everything it needed to be a huge hit. In an interview before the premiere, Russell gushed about Jack Burton and said that, despite the failure, he still loved the part and thought it was one of the funniest he'd ever played. "Jack is stupid, but I like him anyway. He acts like he's in charge even though he doesn't know what he's doing. It's impossible not to love a person like that." Russell was proud to be a part of such a creative and one-of-a-kind project, even though Big Trouble in Little China didn't do as well as he had thought. Third, the computer game that did terrible. To cash in on the excitement around the 1986 movie Big Trouble in Little China, a video game based on it came out at the same time. I thought the movie would do better, but the game did even worse. Games like the Commodore 64 and ZX Spectrum, which were famous at the time, had the game. Jack Burton was controlled by players who faced enemies and tried to save Gracie Law.
People didn't like the game because it had bad graphics, boring gameplay, and an uninspired design.
Even though it didn't do well, the game still gained a small following among movie fans. Copy of the game is now very rare and collectors and players with a nostalgic streak want to get their hands on them.
2. The costume for Rain, one of Lopan's 3 elemental fighters, was a work of art. Peter Quang had to spend hours every day getting ready for his unique look. One of the most interesting things about Rain was her spiked, weightless haircut, which wasn't just a prop. The wig was carefully made by hand with high-quality synthetic hair, and it was worth an amazing $3,000, which was a lot of money at the time. The makeup artists put the wig on Quang's head every morning and styled it for almost 3 hours. Quang remembered, "I had to sit still while they adjusted every strand. There were times when I fell asleep in the makeup chair and Rain was already there when I woke up." Besides the wig, Rain's outfit was a work of art in and of itself. The outfit had intricate, handmade details and patterns that were based on traditional Asian art. These things made Rain a visually stunning figure. There wasn't a lot of time for Rain on screen, but the care and creativity that went into making him look great shows how much care and creativity went into that whole movie. Even small roles were turned into unforgettable icons. 1. Dwayne Johnson once thought about making a sequel? Fans were thrilled when Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson said he was going to make a follow-up to Big Trouble in Little China in 2015. Johnson, who has liked the movie for a long time, made it clear that he didn't want to redo it. Instead, he wanted to continue the story while paying tribute to the original. It's interesting that Johnson didn't want to replace Kurt Russell as Jack Burton. Instead, he saw Jack coming back as a major figure, with Russell playing the part again. Jones said, "You can't replace Jack Burton. He's an icon." Some fans backed the project, but others were afraid it would lose the unique spirit of the first. However, Johnson told everyone that he was determined to stay true to the film's core. When it first came out, Big Trouble in Little China was thought to be a failure, but it has since become a culture phenomenon. Movies, computer games, and a huge number of fans all over the world have been influenced by the movie. If you like hearing about what happened behind the scenes of old films, don't forget to like, follow, and share to find out more interesting movie secrets.